Hi. Hi, I'm Ethel. We're here for Health and Evidence tonight. Uh, Sorry, I am a little bit late getting here today. Um, we were trying to figure out what's going wrong with the lights because I can't, all I see is glare in my glasses. I'm going to have to figure that out. I hope it isn't too bad, guys. Right. Excuse me. Of course, I would be doing that in the middle of a show, wouldn't I? Oh, well. Okay, tonight we're talking about public health screening, right, and mental health screening, which is a pretty serious topic, actually. A lot of people, they wonder, if it's true that the pharmaceutical companies and psychiatry have banded together, in order to market, all right, to all these people, how are they, other than the regular just feel like going to the psychiatrist and getting a prescription, how are they marketing for all this stuff? Well, quite simply, it's through screening, right? We have a problem excuse me, this is a little bit too bright. We have a problem, that's better, I think so. We have a problem in this country that's getting worse. All right, and that's that the psychiatrists have managed to convince the government, all right, that what they are doing, that they have a service that's actually, viable, that's important, all right, and is there to help people. It's a bunch of nonsense, but that's, that's what they're doing, and it's a big, it's a big business for them. They've got the government and they've got the Department of Health and Human Services. They have many clinics that have opened. There's a lot of stuff they're doing in the clinics. They federally, we have if you'll hang on, I believe I got a couple of notes. Okay, hang on. Because this is complicated stuff. This is not stuff that everybody, really stops to think about every time they're going to go to the doctor. Are they being screened for these things? Most people, especially, the people that are getting a little bit more, on in years, are thinking when they go to the doctor, they're going for a particular reason, and, they have to fill out these papers. Okay, it happens to all of us. We fill out these papers. They're getting longer and longer, and they seem to want to know everything about your medical history and everything about your emotional history, whether or not you've been depressed, if you've had any, disabilities, if there's a history of any diseases in your family. There's so many different things they want to know. Well, this is especially true these days in what's called a federally qualified health center, right? I happen to go to one of those, right? And every time they put a piece of paper in front of my face that has a bunch of words on it, and they do that, on average every year anyway. Every time they do that, I go trying to find the fine print, and it's hard for me because I can't see well, all right? And of course, in my clinic, they're not standing there saying to you, gee, and they should, but they don't. They don't always do this, and they don't do it at my clinic. I had to ask them. I said, no. I said, would you please read this to me? All right, because I don't have an easy time reading. And I didn't bring my spyglass, and now you're telling me I have to fill out these papers again, which I already did, last year, right? And when they read these things to you, you need to pay attention, okay? And if you're reading them, you need to pay attention to what you're reading, because there's a lot of information in these papers that is meant to, it's not necessarily meant to protect you so much as it is meant to protect the health center, all right, and to protect their rights, okay, and the rights of the government, all right, in taking this information from you. I would actually, go online and read this thing to you, okay, but I'm not going to go through all that because it's a whole lot of, having to pass from here to there, put a screen up on the screen and this and that. And I'm just not that type of person. So, I'm not going to do that today. But what I do have, I have something which I got from my own doctor's office. Mm-hmm. And nowadays they don't actually have you seeing a doctor much of the time. They have you seeing a nurse practitioner. Okay, all right. And these nurse practitioners, they now have the authority that they can write a prescription. Okay, so who needs a doctor anymore, right? This is the way the modern world is. All right, somewhere far, far away, 2 hours drive, there's a doctor, but I never see him. Okay, I only see the nurse practitioner. Right, I think that's true of a lot of people. Now, they have different types of nurse practitioners. Okay, and the one we're going to talk about tonight, okay, is a psychiatric nurse practitioner, okay, which normally would work in a behavioral health center, for instance. All right. When you go into your clinic, all right, you are going to be seeing papers like this. Okay, you can see mine's all scratched out, okay, because I don't sign them, without giving them trouble. Now, quite frankly, what this was, and it's kind of, it's a little bit sneaky, okay, unless you're really looking for it, you might not see it there and just sign, okay, because you haven't paid attention to what you're signing. Now, this particular piece of paper here is a secondary insurance information form, all right? Has such things as, who is your insurance provider, whether it's you or someone else. It talks about dental insurance information, okay? And it wants you to give your basic information and whatnot. But then there's something else on this paper, okay? That has nothing whatsoever, even though some of it does, have to do with your insurance information. Stuck in there, kind of like, stealthily, snuck in, okay, when you weren't looking, all right? I'm not going to give the name of the provider here, okay? These are my documents, but these are pretty standard. I give permission to render medical, dental. The part I crossed out is and or I believe it says behavioral health services. Okay, behavioral health services, psychiatric services. All right, as determined by my provider, to include but not limited to diagnostic procedures, minor surgical, medical treatment. That's two separate things in here. It's not minor surgical medical treatment. No, it's minor surgical, okay, and then medical treatment. Two separate things, two separate items. Occupational medicine and what's that I crossed out? Oh, counseling. Okay, counseling again, along the line of psychiatric care. All right, to me or my child. Okay. Well, like I said, this is pretty much snuck in there. People aren't going to really look. This is giving permission that they can pretty much take charge of your care, and you sign for it. All right. Now, most people aren't going to think that means a whole lot. All right. But you are told here, and I noticed something a little bit, at the bottom. There's an additional statement that says for, the institution's use only. Good faith effort was made by the institution to obtain the patient's or representative's acknowledgement, but was refused. Okay. And it says, describe the circumstances under which the patient refused to sign this acknowledgement. Right? And then they have a place for the employee and a witness signature. Right? So you can pretty much, add in there however you want to interpret that. I will tell you that I did go online and find out, okay, in our case, my particular health center, what a federally qualified health center, okay, actually is, right? And the notice of privacy practices, okay, which they are required by law to give you a copy of your notice, of the notice of privacy, what their practices are, okay? Well, you would be quite amazed at just how much, how liberated they must feel that they actually, don't have to give you any privacy. It's a terrible shame. But when you go down the list, all right, of all of their privacy practices, all right, basically what you find is that there is no privacy. Mm-hmm. Right? They can go against your privacy, not keep your private things private for several reasons. All right. I'm going to go down the list just a little bit. All right. Treatment, payment of your bill, their healthcare and business operations. Excuse me. They can divulge things about you that are private, okay, in order to keep their healthcare and business operations going. All right. Something called Health Info Net, all right, which disperses your information, okay, throughout, for different doctors, hospitals, things of that nature, okay, so that you can get the best possible care, all right? Now, there's something else called, when they're allowed by law, okay, without your permission, they can divulge your personal information, okay, your health information. When required by the state or the federal law to report abuse or neglect, right? To persons allowed by law to act in your behalf, okay, which could be your guardian, a health care power of attorney, or a surrogate, okay? Also, let's say they can divulge your information for disaster relief purposes. Okay. They can do it to comply with the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration. Okay. They can do it to comply with a valid court order. They can, let's see, if you're an inmate, okay, in a prison, all right, or jail, or a hospital, or whatever have you, they can do it. Okay, they can release your medical information or your psychiatric information or whatever information you have, okay, to the correctional facility or the hospital or, what have you, wherever you are, okay? Now, it goes without saying that, they can, and they've done it before, forced commitments and whatnot, and in the old days, they did a lot of that into hospitals, where they'd take a patient to court and they'd put the person, through the court process, and the person would be committed, by the diagnosis of one psychiatrist, all right, be committed into an institution, all right. It's a process they do on a regular basis. They can commit someone to taking medications, even though they're not committing a person to an institution. They can still commit someone by court order to take a medication, right? Now, why did I want to talk about this subject tonight? Well, I think it's because a lot of persons just don't pay attention, right? When you are going to a doctor, you want to believe that, your stuff, okay, isn't like, that all of your medical information, okay, isn't necessarily going to be given to that doctor, okay? Your little things, okay, like, okay, I wasn't feeling quite well and I went and I asked for, a medication, so that I could sleep at night. All right, from some counselor. Okay, let's say. I don't do that stuff, but there's plenty of people that do. Right? Okay. There's plenty of people that take sedatives, or they're what's that, antidepressants and things, things that I don't agree with taking. Okay, that I won't even let in my house, because I don't think they're healthy. I think they create a dependency in an individual that shouldn't have to be, and people should be able to do other things, like take a nice hot shower and calm down and have a good meal and get some sleep, just by natural means. Okay, but there's a lot of people that do, and then there's people even that they talk with a counselor, they feel depressed, they feel sad, all right, and they're upset that they feel sad. Right, but all of this, they're asking these questions in these sheets. They want to know everything about you, about the way you think, about what you're doing with your spare time, whether or not you've ever had a glass of beer, most likely. I think they ask too many questions, and I don't sign. And I think it's good policy that people don't sign, okay, on some of these things, because lots of time they're just fishing the dog. They are screening in the schools. They're doing it in the schools. I have a couple of articles, okay, down there in my pages that I put there within the last few days about the government screening in our schools, all right, the children. They want to get information from the kids, all right? What's going on in your neighborhood? How are you getting along with the other kids? Do you know any other kids that are drinking alcohol? Do you, it's all supposedly anonymous, but they're asking the kids. And a lot of this, there are the psychiatrists, okay, are involved, okay, through the psychologists, right? Because the school psychologists, a lot of them, if they feel that a child, okay, needs to be seen by a psychiatrist to become medicated, okay, or to go to a behavioral health center where there's a nurse practitioner who's a psychiatric nurse practitioner, that this kid needs to be medicated, that's what they're going to do. And where are they getting this information? Well, they're doing it through questioning the kids. They're putting these kids through different types of counseling and things, and they're asking questions, and they're doing an awful lot of this stuff, even without the parents' knowledge. And I know I have run up against some of that, okay, with my granddaughter. All right. And, me and my family, okay, we have our beliefs, okay, we have our ways of doing things, and we don't agree with psychiatry. And we've gotten a couple of, kind of nasty looks, how do you say, because we've turned them down and we've said no, right? Of course, me and John are, good friends at this point. And he's, I agree. I agree with John Breeding and with Peter Berg and, and all these people that we should not be drugging our kids, all right? Not in any way, right? I think that it just diminishes their capacity. The kids become less cognitive efficient, okay, over time, all right, if in fact they are taking these drugs. All right, back when I was a little girl, when I was, maybe even when I wasn't that little, they were saying speed kills, right? Does anybody remember that? All right, and now they're pushing it. It's like the psychiatrists and the pharmaceutical industry are drug pushers. That's what they do. And then if the drug doesn't work, okay, which it never will, because normal people, okay, that are growing up, that have a normal intelligence of any kind, you don't need a drug in order to function in your life. You just need to have some self-awareness that kids need to grow up natural. Parents need to help them grow up natural. They shouldn't be giving them drugs. Right? So we're totally doing, okay, these things, listening to these psychiatrists and listening to them it's just crazy. right? Because if anything is crazy, it's crazy to listen to a psychiatrist. Because one thing is for certain, they have created so many drug addicts in this country, right? And if you look, and I put a good selection of articles, all right, in my Google pages. And if you care to scroll down and look, okay, at the several different articles that I've found around the web, and little things I've written. I'm not always fast on my feet to just be able to, rattle my mouth about every little bit of knowledge I might have picked up, over the years. But the point is, the information is out there, all right, and we need to really considerably think about what we are doing to our kids. We need to study the facts, all right, of how many kids are being drugged in this country today, right? There's too much Ritalin out there, right? There's too much Vyvanse. There's too much Concerta. There's too much, just like there was always, there's too much Valium, that was flying around. There's just too many drugs. All right, and everywhere you turn, people are taking drugs, okay? And it's like nothing, but it's weakening our character as a nation. It's weakening the kids. It's hurting the people that are most vulnerable in this country. We cannot be allowing this to go on, right? And yet it is, and it's a very big problem, and it's a very hard thing to fight. Okay, especially when you have the government backing up the people that are the drug pushers, right, with your Medicaid dollars, right? And when you have the drug pushers saying, "Oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. We're a legal branch of medicine," all right? Well, they became MDs so that they could give themselves an air of, we're professional, we know what we're doing, okay, because we have an MD, license. No, okay? Psychiatry itself is not medicine, right? Psychiatry is it's a form of control, right? And the government loves it because it's assisting the government to control your life. Right, and it's a form of how can I, when they tell you that you have to, okay, that you must, okay, listen, okay, to the the president of the United States puts out a commission, okay, that says we're going to improve all the mental health of the whole nation, okay, so we're going to start treating everybody, okay, that has a problem from the time they're little kids so that they won't have a problem throughout their whole life, but yet they're creating the problem, all right, and the children grow up to be drug addicts and they'll never come off the drugs, all right, and the Department of Health and Human Services are the people who are kind of like overseeing this for the government, okay, and supplying the the Medicaid dollars, okay, right, to pay for these drugs and other treatments if the drugs don't work, which, as many of us have told you, okay, John Breeding, Peter Bregan, many of these people, Thomas Satz, rest his soul, he passed away recently, as many of us can tell you, if the drugs don't work, they will, okay, do other things which are even more dangerous, which really, harm a person even more, okay? Electric shock, okay, that is the next, if the drugs don't work, they will find a way that they'll do ECT, right? And the drugs don't work, so it's not like you really have an option, all right? Okay, the only option you have is stay off the drugs, be natural, live a right life, okay, and try to be healthy, using normal methods without drugs, okay, because you certainly don't want to be stuck on drugs for your whole life, all right, and and hurting yourself even further, and having more emotional problems brought on by the drugs, right, and you certainly don't want to be given electrocution, shocks, okay, electric shock. All right, because the drugs aren't working. And, I read it recently and it's down in my, in my posts if you want to go over it. They're still doing a form of lobotomy. Lobotomy is lobotomy. Okay, they're still doing it. They've hidden it, huh? They've changed the name. All right, psychosurgery. No, psychiatry hasn't changed. It doesn't change. It will never change. You know, they're evil-minded. There are a few good people, okay, who became psychiatrists only to find, okay, after they became a psychiatrist that they could no longer, okay, that they could not put up what psychiatry is doing, right? And those good people are the ones that are helping. They're on the side of the people that really don't want to be injured anymore by psychiatry. So they're speaking out against psychiatry, right? And so I hand it to those men and women, okay, who are psychiatrists and who have turned their backs on the evil that has been perpetrated by psychiatry. Um, you know, this is it's kind of a scary thing when you can't trust your own government to protect you from such things, and when you need to, really be in charge of your own, your own life, your own beliefs, your own emotions. You need to make choices that are good for yourself, because these other guys that you think that are going to help you, they're not. Right? It's important to think about, what best to do for your own children, for your own families, and find counselors who do care, who would never even once think about giving you a drug, right? Who would not even think about, such things as ECT being healthy, okay? And who would never tell you that you have a brain chemical imbalance, all right? Which has never been proved. There's no such thing, all right? And all of the words in the world, okay, to the contrary, by persons who bandy about these ideas of psychiatry, is not going to make it one bit true. All right. So, okay, guys. I guess it's probably time for me to quit. All right. Next time we're gonna see if we can't bring on a guest. We have John has just come off vacation, most likely, and he's promised to come back on. I'd like to see him do it, probably within the next few weeks. I have a few things, okay, that I'm thinking of putting up, okay, over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. But until then, I really want you folks to think about what I'm saying, all right? Because every time you go into a doctor's office and you fill out papers, all right, unless you realize what they're really doing with your information, okay, you could be unpleasantly surprised at some point, okay, when they use your information in a way that you hadn't intended would happen, right? You also need to get copies of your medical records, if you can do so. And anything that's in your medical records that you believe is not true, you need to really sit down, seriously, write papers, change, make notes, okay, and send them along to the person who's holding the records. They will not change what's in your record. They will add in whatever you have told them is new information, or to clarify a record that they did not understand or was, incomprehensible. Right? Which that's a little bit irritating. I know that they would leave something in the record that's really false. All right, but they would do it simply because it was already in there, and they feel legally it has to be there. All right, even if it's totally untrue, So the only recourse you have is to make the correction in writing, and hope that people have common sense and can see past whatever it was that was in the record that was untrue. Right? Okay. But do go into your records, do find out what they contain, so that you can be better in charge of your own medical care, because you know what's in your record. And be very careful what you sign when you're in a doctor's office or in a school building, okay, or anywhere where they're asking you to sign documents. Make sure you understand them, okay, before you sign. Right? Thanks for being with me tonight. Okay. God bless you all. Have a great week. Till next Sunday, 7 p.m. for Held in Evidence. Good night.